Only weeks ago, new attention turned back to the FBI investigation into Nancy Guthrie, and the focus is once again on her home. What investigators found inside was not dramatic, but it was deeply unsettling. No broken doors, no signs of a struggle inside the house, just quiet details that did not feel right. Details that made the FBI return, look again, and then grow silent. When federal agents stop talking, it usually means something has been found, something that changes the whole case. 8 weeks in, with no suspect named and no proof of life, what is the FBI finding that keeps driving them back to that house in Tucson? She went to sleep safe, then she was gone. Nancy Guthrie, 84, disappeared after spending a Saturday evening visiting with the family of her daughter Annie near her home in the Catalina foothills area north of Tucson, Arizona. Euronews. The evening was calm. There were no arguments, no signs of worry, no indication that anything in the world was wrong. She was dropped off home shortly before 10 p.m., and her family reported her missing the following morning after she failed to show up for church. Beat of Hawaii. That gap between a peaceful family dinner and a missing 84-year-old woman became the center of one of the most unsettling abduction cases in recent American history. According to a detailed timeline released by authorities, her garage door closed at 9:30 p.m. At 1:47 a.m., the doorbell camera disconnected. At 2:12 a.m., a person was detected on camera, but no video was available. At 2:28 a.m., Nancy's pacemaker disconnected from her phone. Kauai, now in less than 5 hours, someone had entered her world and erased her from it. When the family first discovered she was missing, Savannah Guthrie said they assumed something medical had happened because the back doors to Nancy's home were found propped open. In that initial panic, the family thought paramedics might have come in the night. Fox News' that assumption vanished quickly once authorities arrived. What they found was not the aftermath of a medical emergency. It was something far more deliberate. When the FBI stepped in, the case was not treated as a routine missing persons report for long. Evidence recovered at the residence indicated that Guthrie had been taken against her will, and Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos stated that he believed she had been abducted. A multi-agency investigation led by the Pima County Sheriff's Department, with assistance from the FBI and U.S. Customs and Border Protection, included extensive forensic analysis, neighborhood canvassing, and a review of surveillance footage. Bloodstains found at the scene were confirmed to be Nancy's. TMZ. The presence of blood was one of the first truly chilling details. Drops of blood appeared to be on the front entrance to Nancy Guthrie's home, with blood spattered on the front porch and down the driveway. Star Advertiser, and yet inside the house itself, there were no signs of chaos. No overturned furniture, no shattered glass. That contrast blood outside, calm inside, told investigators something important. This was not a spontaneous act. Someone had planned it. At least 3 ransom notes were sent to media outlets, including TMZ and local CBS affiliate Cold TV, by early February. The notes were described by news organizations as well, written communications containing insider details about the crime scene. Kauai. Now that level of detail was alarming. It meant that whoever wrote those notes knew things about Nancy's home that a stranger would not have known. Investigators took that seriously from the beginning. What the cameras captured. 10 days after Nancy disappeared, the FBI released footage that the public was not prepared for. Doorbell camera footage showed a masked, armed man approaching Nancy's front porch on the night of her disappearance. The FBI described him as a male between 5'9" and 5'10" tall, with an average build, wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail backpack, a brand sold exclusively at Walmart. Euronews. The suspect wore a gun in what appeared to be a cheap holster positioned on the front of his body, which former FBI agents described as not tactically sound. Analysts also noted that the gloves he was wearing would have made it difficult to fire the weapon, suggesting the gun may have been a prop intended purely to instill fear. Star Advertiser. The behavior on camera was also strange. Rather than forcing the door, it appeared the suspect was attempting to cover the doorbell camera with his gloved hand, then used branches to obscure the lens behavior, some analysts interpreted as an attempt to get Nancy to open the door herself without seeing a masked figure on her porch. Star advertiser. The masked person seen on that doorbell footage was also recorded at Nancy's doorstep on a separate night, earlier in January. FBI Director Kash Patel's release of the image from that second visit surprised local and federal investigators on the ground, who had hoped to keep the detail confidential. WLBT that second visit, weeks before the abduction, pointed toward surveillance, toward planning, toward a target who had been watched before anyone knew to be afraid. The return to the house. As weeks passed, the FBI did something unusual. They returned to Nancy's home. Multiple times. Activity at the residence was described as related to efforts to turn the home back over to the Guthrie family, with federal law enforcement sources confirming that officials no longer saw the need to seal the premises as a crime scene. Hello! But even as the home was released, investigators had not finished with the neighborhood. Federal investigators returned to Nancy Guthrie's Catalina Foothills neighborhood to ask fresh questions about a vacant property and nearby construction activity. Agents reportedly requested the names of contractors and workers active in the area in the days and weeks leading up to the disappearance. KSAT. This is the kind of detail that rarely makes headlines but matters enormously to investigators. A property vacated shortly before an abduction, workers with access to the neighborhood, routines observed by someone who knew when and how to move. Law enforcement sources also confirmed that additional surveillance footage was recovered from cameras installed at Nancy's home, one focused on the back of the house and one covering the driveway and garage. The images captured family members, landscapers, and pool workers stretching back weeks before the kidnapping. Nothing was deemed suspicious, and no images showed the masked suspect captured on the front door camera. The Hollywood Reporter. The back of the house, however, was where those doors had been left propped open. That detail had never been fully explained. The silence that speaks. Between the Pima County Sheriff's Department and the FBI, there have been between 40,000 and 50,000 leads generated in this investigation. Hello, that number is extraordinary. And yet, publicly, investigators have grown quieter with every passing week. Press conferences stopped. Statements became shorter. Updates became rarer. That silence is not indifference. It is strategy. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer described the case as red hot behind the scenes, writing that it would only go cold if investigators had no leads, no interviews to conduct, no footage to evaluate, and no forensic evidence to examine. She wrote that Nancy's case is active in every one of those categories, and that the FBI is working with more investigative leads than most cases ever generate. KSAT. Investigators have turned to forensic genetic genealogy in hopes of breaking the case open, a technique previously used to identify Brian Kohberger, the man convicted of killing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. Experts warn the process takes time because it can surface multiple people within the same DNA family who must each be investigated independently. The Hollywood Reporter. DNA analysis of a pair of black gloves found 2 miles from the Guthrie home led back to a local restaurant worker who is not connected to the case. Investigators found a total of 16 pairs of gloves in the surrounding area. Most were later traced to members of search teams. WLBT, a promising lead, a dead end. That is the pattern of this investigation. Close, then not close enough. A family in agony. In her first sit-down interview since her mother disappeared, Savannah Guthrie told Today Show colleague Hoda Kott that her family is in agony. "We are in agony," she said, in tears. "It is unbearable." She described waking up every night in the dark, imagining her mother's terror. The bullet? The Guthrie family has offered a $1 million reward for information leading to Nancy's recovery. They are also donating $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, Wisdom 92.1. In their latest statement, the family wrote, "We cannot grieve. We can only ache and wonder. Our focus is solely on finding her and bringing her home." Wisdom 92.1. Sheriff Nanos warned the community not to assume they are safe because this happened to the Guthrie family. Investigators believe the kidnapping was targeted, but Nano said the suspect could strike again. Yahoo! That warning has not faded. Savannah Guthrie herself said that shortly after her mother went missing, she feared her own fame as a Today Show co-host had played a role in making her mother a target. Fox News? Now, 54 days in, Nancy Guthrie has still not been found. The investigation is active. The FBI is still working. Savannah Guthrie made one final plea in her interview. Someone needs to do the right thing. She needs to come home now. If you have any information, contact 1-800-CALL-FBI or submit a tip at tips.fbi.gov. If this case moved you, like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.